Bonjour, bienvenue à Radio Renard. Aujourd'hui, je suis en compagnie de Jérémia Lorenzo Lodi. Je suis toujours nerveuse de prononcer les noms des gens. Il me faut un petit cours avant de commencer. Donc, Jérémia, tu es musicien, compositeur et pédagogue musical. Tu as eu un baccalauréat en sciences de l'éducation à l'Université de Bergame, un diplôme en flûte au Conservatoire de Novara et tu viens de terminer ta maîtrise en éducation musicale à l'Université McGill. Donc aujourd'hui, tu enseignes la musique, tu fais des ateliers et le lien entre ton expertise et Renard, c'est que tu enseignes notamment la musique par le corps, donc tes percussions corporelles. Et c'est ce que j'ai découvert, on suit un programme d'entrepreneuriat à l'École des entrepreneurs ensemble et durant un lunch, on a commencé à se présenter, à parler de nos projets, tu m'expliquais ton domaine. Puis quand j'ai entendu le mot percussion corporelle, l'aspect corporel, ça a vraiment piqué ma curiosité. Parce qu'avec Renard, on veut explorer le mouvement sous toutes ses formes, changer la perspective du mouvement, mais aussi changer la perspective qu'on a des fois par rapport au corps humain, puis montrer que c'est pas juste une machine pour transporter notre cerveau, comme je pensais avant, ou une machine qui doit avoir des muscles et un six-pack. Mais que le corps, en fait, de ton point de vue, même, c'est un instrument de musique ambulant. Donc, c'est le genre de thème que j'adore explorer, qu'on va discuter aujourd'hui. Sur ton LinkedIn, tu m'as vraiment fait rire parce que c'est écrit que tu parles français et anglais tout en conservant un charmant accent italien. J'ai vraiment aimé l'honnêteté et aujourd'hui, c'est ça. Tu parles parfaitement français, mais c'est plus fluide, facile pour toi en anglais.
C'est un peu plus fluide pour moi en anglais, oui.
Donc, on va parler en anglais aujourd'hui. Voilà. Et on va commencer tout de suite par une première question en anglais. Faut que je fasse le switch dans ma tête des fois. C'est exact. So you're a musician and a teacher, and I'm curious to go way back when you were younger. What was your relation to music growing up?
First thing, thank you very much for inviting me to this podcast. It's always a pleasure to have the chance to conversate about what we do. It's always a way to think back and say, oh, okay, that's what I do, right? So I'm starting with the question. When I read yesterday the question, this question you asked me, actually the first thing that came to mind was when in the morning, primary school, I was leaving home to go to school. And I was really looking forward to those 10 minutes of walk from my home to school because I had I was used to whistle, like, in the echo of 7:30 in the morning, when everything is silent, and I could hear the resonance of the sound in the building that I was crossing, and it was delightful. I was really looking forward every morning to that specific 10 minutes, wow. You know, so. It was. It's funny that these are the first things that come to mind, and then my older brothers and sister used to play in a music school. I Piccoli Musici is a really renowned music school in my hometown, and so it came natural for me to start to play an instrument. I was considered a really talented student. But I actually didn't practice that much.
There's a but, yeah.
Exactly. So for the longest time, I think that I kept on studying music mostly on the perseverance of my teacher more than on my own interest. Until a certain point when I was in high school, and I said, okay, many years passed. I know that I have this talent, and it would be kind of a waste to not go deeper into it. Mm-hmm. And I also felt responsible for all the money my parents for the music school.
Which instrument did you play at the time?
I was playing the flute, and I still play the flute Le Traversière, the one you play on the side. Mm-hmm. And that's actually when the magic started, like the commitment and my own decision to say, okay, I'm going to try to do the exams at the conservatory, and I'm going to try to play more. So the fact of playing many hours every day. I have times when I was playing 4 or 5 hours a day between my 18 and 21 years old. That's the one I...
In addition to your studies and
in addition to the studies, yeah. And it was when you have spent so much time in activity that involved mostly breathing and the body. One of the things that was beautiful of the flute is that it's a really natural instrument. It's one of the closest to singing, because the emission of the air is directly in the flute. So spending many hours breathing deeply to perform is actually an extremely beneficial effect on the entire body. So, and even such a young age, when you're younger it's hard because your body changes literally every day. But when you get to 18, 19, your body is enough stable that you can really develop a fine listening to how your body is every day. And so that was the time when I had some of the most striking experiences and realization that actually definitely influenced the rest of my life in an understanding. So there are especially 2 events that came to mind when later you asked me what was the thing that
triggered you to
or exactly, or what is why music is important. You know, some when I give an answer, I still can go back to those experiences that I had when I was 18, 19.
And so you were in Italy for most of your life
until I was 27.
27, and now what?
Now I'm 30 and turning 36, I believe.
Okay. So almost 10. What happened between the moment you were in Italy and right now? I think you traveled a bit. You came in Montreal to study. What kind of brought you here?
So you mean what brought me here? The first it was a person that brought me here in first place.
It happens quite often.
It happens, yeah, exactly.
Or you go somewhere and then you meet someone and you want to stay. You kind of stay there, but okay. So someone brought you here.
So somebody brought me here. That person was my partner at the time. She came to Canada for an internship. And so I just followed her, and our relationship didn't last. But then I said, "Oh, I'm interested in Montreal." I always wanted to go to study abroad. I was always thinking of Europe, but then I said Montreal could be interesting the same. So I decided to apply to university, to McGill, for my master. I was accepted, and that's how I came here. I did my master, and it took me 3 years to finish it. And then after 1 year in Montreal, I got the opportunity to go to work in Nunavik with a company called Project Youth Fusion. And so I had 3 school years working in a Inuit village.
How much time did you say? A few years.
3 years. 3 school years, yeah.
Okay.
And then last year was a sabbatical year after the north, like taking courses, traveling a little, and then since September I'm back in Montreal and I am now starting my enterprise.
Yes, your own project. So in Nunavik you were teaching music.
Yeah, it was a performing art project. I was the coordinator of the project in the town, and I was mostly teaching music. I had a in-class workshop in collaboration with the teachers, so I was trying to give a workshop for each class, but not all the classes were involved. So to primary school and high school, and also kindergarten. And then I was animating the after school, where we were mostly playing instruments. We had an amazing music room equipped with all sorts of instruments. And then I also give classes at the youth house in the evening. Okay. The reason is that I felt that it was good to reach out the students in their environment they felt the most comfortable. Also in the evening, when there are moments when maybe they are less followed. So it was a project that gave me the chance really to meet the students in many different contexts at the same time.
And when you were a musician, Did you envision yourself becoming a teacher?
It's interesting because I started to give classes really early, even before to finish my studies in music. My flute teacher was also a teacher in primary school on music projects, and so she early enough passed me some of the contracts she couldn't take. So, and I was studying already at the time also science of education, so it came really natural to think to combine the two, and it was that start was an interesting time. I was 20, 21. I had full of plenty of ideas too, and it was nice because in primary school I was giving English course in primary school, and teachers in primary school are not necessarily have a strong music education, so most of the time say do whatever you want. No, it's like blank, and so I had really the freedom to try things and to experiment. And I remember this project where we do compositions with objects and recording the sound and playing back for the students and seeing often magic happening in the encounter. I really had the passion to I always thought that in school the subject matter is more like a context for the people in the class to encounter, to meet. And of course, it's a specific context, and each subject asks to interact in a different way. But I was always asking, okay, what is that music is gonna let us do today? What is that music is gonna let us discover one another today? And who's gonna take the chance to volunteer for this? Who's gonna have the intuition to this answer? No, I was trying to. One of my teachers, Paolo Perticari, said once that one of the tasks of a teacher is to show horizons to his students. No, so it's always like this intuition. Like say, okay, what is the horizon we can open together in the class today? You know, so.
It's interesting. It's much deeper than just learning about an instrument, for example, or just learning about like the technical aspect, which is mostly how I learned music in primary school. And I think it's sometimes the experience of most people. I remember two things: learning a song to sing depending on the seasons. Like in Christmas, we would learn Christmas songs, and then we would have some instruments throughout the year that we would learn to play. But I don't recall having this kind of human experience and lessons that we could live with music. So it's very interesting also that in your own experience, the fact that some of your teachers didn't have a musical background and gave you full liberty is what actually you enjoyed in the end and kind of influenced you in your own approach. It's like not being purely like structured and technical, but kind of being it's a context for exploration with people. So
yeah, the primary school teachers they was collaborating with me. Like I would say, with giving the trust to say, yeah, try it. Try what. So it was really nice. Yeah.
And
it's true. It is complex. It's one of the many issues of the frame the paradigm is still moving in, where for many years the music educators struggled to advocate for music, and also the argument they used often was like things like music makes you smarter, makes you learn mathematics faster, or all these subjects.
It was an instrument for something else. It was a tool for something else.
Exactly, and failing to recognize what is that music is can be precious for, and the reason is that maybe some of the skills that music develop are skills and abilities that has more to do with life itself and not with schooling. And so and maybe it's because our school system doesn't necessarily focus on these skills and these qualities. So it's although when music also has a really technical part, and that it's technical, I think, because it has to do with the body. It has to do with an action that you can own in the ear. So of course, the more you do it, the better it is. That comes with the natural things.
Do you feel that now is a good time? What's the place of music in school right now or in the life of people? Do you think there's an evolution that people tend to recognize more and more what musics bring to them outside from academic grades?
I think that is a time when there is a rediscovery of the body. Mm-hmm. I think that there are many signs in the city, in society, that there is a rediscovery of what is the body, and what is the characteristic of the body, and what are the implications for one's life. And this in turn has also effects on understanding of music. Personally, when I say that, what is my purpose in life, and what is
your purpose? Okay.
Yeah, my work is to create a more musical society. So what it means for me, a musical society is a society of people that communicate in a more authentic way, really communicating from a place of connection to who they are, and for this, I think it's fundamental to establish a clear connection with the body and the experience of the body. So I think that together with the discovery of the body comes also a new understanding of what music and also other arts can do for one's life.
We kind of have the same vision with Renard to, like, there's a big trend around wellness, which is a good thing. Like I think our generation, we're asking more and more, how can I live better and thrive and feel like I have a purpose in life and be healthy? And sometimes some subjects are always a tool to performance. It's feel better because you're going to be a better performer at work, for example. And we want to explore the fact that moving and doing some activities like music and using your body in itself, that moment is very valuable. Like it does bring you benefits in the long term. Like you said, music is for sure great for the brain, for the connection to ourselves and to others. But the moment you practice and you connect to yourself, just that is already very valuable. And I feel that your work was kind of about that. We can talk about your master thesis. And I'm very curious to understand more clearly what was your question and the result you got around that. I'm going to read, I was going to read the title, but actually you can say the title of your thesis and then explain the question.
Right, yeah. I actually made 2 different papers. Like my thesis was made from 2 different papers. And I believe the titles were, one was body, listening, body, and resonance. Okay. And it was dedicated to an analysis of Meredith Monk and Pauline Oliveros' respective compositional practices. They are both artists that compose by engaging the body in music. Okay. And the second one was an analysis of Rhiannon's pedagogical approach to improvisation. Rhiannon is a master improviser, vocal improviser, that grew in the school of Bobby McFerrin. Okay. And she came out with her own pedagogy. So I had the chance to film a 7 days long workshop that she gave here in Montreal, and to analyze the movement. Yeah, there are these 2 subjects. On the one hand, there is the work, the studies, and that connects back to some of the fundamental experiences. Like there is the question, what is why music is beneficial, and so let's see from where to start. Maybe we can start with the university research and then go through that experience. The research was really investigating what does it mean to learn through the body, and I did it through investigating the practice of artists that already do it, and been exploring it for years, and these 3 artists that I mentioned. Going a bit deeper, Meredith Monk is a choreographer and composer and experimental artist.
Oh, I thought it was like a monk. Like
actual monk.
No, an actual monk. It's his last name.
His last name.
Okay.
Exactly.
I was like, wow, there are monks somewhere that do what you do, whatever.
Although she has a Buddhist connection to like, in her practice, so maybe her name was an invitation to a life path. So what happened in her practice is that she engages the body in movement through dancing. Mm-hmm. As a way to awaken the emotional memory stored in her body. So let's say that maybe she engages in the body exploring the relationship with her mother. Mm. So from movement exploration, deepened into whatever memory is stored in her in the fibers. And as these emotions are coming to the surface, she kind of captures them through her voice. No, and she records them. Mm-hmm. So let's say that this music carries the in an aesthetic way those emotions that were it has something like isomorphic we can think of between the emotion that was expressed and the one that was captured. Mm-hmm. And then she used these materials to further explore this subject, and sometimes she passed these materials to her collaborator that seeing them and see what effect it produced on her body. And there's a second phase of improvisation and exploration. So it's really a process of a somatic process of composition, where there's no distinction between the musical qualities, but then they are also elaborated also in a more, let's say, compositional approach, like at the piano and.
Like she builds a piece after her work, or does it stay an improvisation that is kind of ephemeral?
She builds. She builds a composition on these materials. Like these materials are the she improvises are the, let's say, the raw materials that she used to build on.
So it starts from a theme or that generates sensation and emotions in her, and she kind of plays with that, and then she sings how she's feeling and the things that emerge, and then from that, like you said, it's a raw material, and she builds up a piece of art that is shared.
Exactly. Okay. Where also movement and compositions are and come to dance and to communicate. Throughout the piece. Mm-hmm. There's always the movement the movement and the dance are often associated then on the scene with singing, because actually she composed operas. She calls them operas, but for opera she means a show that integrates all these different elements: the dance, the music, and the multimedia as well. Mm-hmm. So it's amazing work. Like it's a visceral work. When you hear music, it has always an effect on the body. And it's actually, what's interesting is that it's a wordless singing. Okay. Like there are no words. Like she says that the voice has the power to express emotions for which we have no words for. Wow. And so that's why she doesn't want to limit the expressive power of the voice to say certain words. Mm-hmm. And
that's fascinating. I started a spiritual practice, and I decided that instead of watching Netflix every night, like to relax, I would do a whole month this month without Netflix or YouTube videos, to just read, disconnect and read, and work on a topic of my choice. So I was working this month on self-love. Just the fact I realized that my internal discourse about myself is very negative. So I kind of wanted some silence and just working gently on it every night. And one of the book I read on perfectionism addressed exactly that, the fact that when we are hard on ourselves, sometimes it's because we split the world in two things. Like it's a dichotomy all the time. Like it's either black or white, and that we want to perceive the world and categorize things with words, right? We want to name things and judge them and give them qualities. And the good thing with language and vocabulary is that it can help you see the world and understand it, but it can also limit your perception, because if you don't have a word for something, you don't see it. And it was interesting to understand as well that in other cultures, or with other languages, learning a new language can help you see the world differently because they will use some words that you don't have in your initial language. For example, I speak two languages, French and English, and we read all the stuff we can in English when it's the original tongue of the writer, and some words are very hard to bring from one language to another, like the word to empower, or something that is leadership, or something that's meaningful or worthwhile. Embodiment in French would be like an expression. I think it would be the connection to the body, like embodiment, c'est l'acte d'être dans son corps, connecté à son corps. How would you translate it?
I have a hard time because there's the word incarné. It doesn't have the same power,
and it
the meaning.
Kinds of have a religious
meaning. It has a religious, of course. There's a religious
sense to it.
Sense.
Yeah. So it's interesting that she decides to express herself without words, because it's like there's a full spectrum of emotion and things that she can experience. And even if you don't have a word for it, it still exists, right? I think it's one mistake is to think that what exists is what we can describe and control and predict. But if we shut our mind and we just feel the world, everything is still there without words. I don't know if I think it, I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah, it is actually again a big subject. You know, somebody the coach to ergo sum of Descartes would say that if you cannot think it and name it, it doesn't exist. You know? But you know, it's true. It's true that there are so many reflections about how the language indeed come as almost as a layer that can colonize our experience and set a specific understanding. It's true. Like I remember this power, with the power of language also in a positive way. Like remember Jacques Nawashish, one elder at ICAMEC, that gave a speech at the International Spoken Word Festival in Montreal a few years ago, and he was saying that for his culture, it doesn't make sense to learn the language at school. They say because the language, you go in the forest to learn the language, because learning the language means to learn the world, because there's still a clear connection between the entity of nature and the language. The way the language is formed is making appear certain secret connection that there are between you and between what you encounter. So everything is intertwined in this relationship, and so to learn the language without the presence of the nature is like missing one of the two elements that give meaning to one another.
So you wanted to learn the language in a natural setting.
That's for the First Nation. Yes, that's for the First Nation.
Yeah, it's funny because there's a movement towards forest schooling that is like it's a trend that is coming back, bringing kids outside.
Yeah, it would be a dream for me too, I guess.
It would be great for you.
It would be a dream, like to have a school that is outside. Okay,
well, it's another subject, but I have a few references that we could talk. We had the guest that from the outdoor school in Montreal that is called Le Lion et la Souris.
Okay.
I don't know if you know them.
No, I never heard of them.
Actually, I think one of the founder members was from the music world, and they were workshops on music at the time. But the kids are always outside, even when it's very cold. Well, if it's super, super cold and windy, then they can go inside. They have a place, but normally they're always outside and playing. And it's philosophy of free play. So, like the teacher is not there to control and direct the intervention. He's there to support the kids in his own learning and exploration of the world. So I'm pretty sure you would think like them. We will talk about it. Okay, so going back to your work, so you studied, you gave an example of one artist that you studied.
Exactly, really short. Like when this was Merit Monk, when Pauline Oliveros has a different approach, that is to guide the body into a state of meditation.
Okay,
and
a sitting meditation?
a state of meditation.
Okay, a state of meditation.
Where there's a certain idea of radical opening toward the sound around you. And you resonate, like you start to create sound by listening the fact that the sounds of nature provoking you. You know, so it's like this idea that your body becomes a resonator of what is around you.
It's kind of a relationship with the surroundings. Like it's not a passive observation.
No, exactly.
And is it in a natural setting, his approach, or it's
natural
anywhere?
setting mostly? Yeah, and she has many compositions that are in fact like guidelines to how to focus on a certain way of listening. And so each experience is focused on this way of directing your attention in a certain way of your body responding to sound. It's interesting because she elaborated this theory of the quantum theory of listening,
okay,
where she says that producing sound and listening has the same effect in her theory, because when you listen openly, you allow your system to be transformed by the sound. And so your body is a part of the environment. As well as when you produce sound, you are impacting with a vibration, with a sound vibration, the body around you. And so this also has an effect of transformation. Yeah, so yeah, it was a long research, and then there's Rihanna that instead has this more really fascinating approach of improvisation and how to engage the body to draw inspiration for creating improvisation.
And how did those people and the findings of your research impacted you? Like, do you realize there's a before and an after? Did something click and kind of change your perception? It was more a continuation of your own approach?
Oh, for sure, my studies provided the way to understand my work. Like some of the activities I use now are borrowed by these artists, and some of them are just inspired by it's my own production, but that I find meaning inside this frame that I created. It was really fascinating. Yeah, the entire process, especially it's been a slow process. Like I listen to Meredith Monk music every day for more than 1 year. You know, so it was nice to have the chance to develop this intimate understanding of somebody's work. Let's say that there was a moment when I was really slow to produce my paper. And
don't worry, we could talk about writing a thesis. It took me 4 years. So.
Okay, so
don't worry.
And I remember that my supervisor at that time told me, "Okay, Jeremiah, you have 3 days. In 3 days I'm going on vacation. So if you want me to read anything, you have 3 days." And I was about to say, "But I'm moving this weekend." I said, before to say that, I said, No. 3 days. Okay, so I've been writing a good deal of my thesis in the same days I was moving. And when you're obliged to write whatever comes out, actually when the most interesting thing comes out.
Yes.
Like, because you are so desperate that you need to say something, so you need to go deeper and deeper.
Desperation, I like the word. Yeah, like writing a thesis for a master or PhD can be very hard, and it brings a lot of suffering because what I see in you is that you're very curious and you kind of like to explore, and that was my case too. And there's kind of this willingness to explore because you really deeply enjoy the subject. And then I was thinking that I had to start when I was inspired, and I think that's a great myth that if you wait to be inspired, you'll never write or you'll never do something because it doesn't happen quite often. And actually I realized that time constraint was a great way to just sit and do it. So I just so relate to your story. Yes,
I took that writing was a dirty process. Like but writing is getting out what you can, and but then you edit after. But the first writing is what it is, no?
Yes, exactly. The first, you gotta let it out, the first draft.
Exactly.
Just because it's hard, and then after you kind of
modify.
Like, yeah, okay, so back to your thesis.
Exactly. In that evening, that long no-stop writing. That's actually when I connected that experience back to one of those first experiences when I was playing flute. But actually, this probably, if there's a thing important for the interview, like if probably the kernel of an interview might be this idea. But also in my answer a little bit why music is useful for life. No? And I remember this specific moment when I was probably 17, and my flute teacher asked me to play this piece of music for solo flute. And the description of the character at the top of the piece was Marshall. No?
Okay.
And I remember that only reading the Marshall tone and feeling like, no, I don't like this piece. No. I didn't understand what was happening at the time. I understand it that evening when I was writing, I finally understood what happened. I just realized that it was a time when, I'm a man growing up in a society that was still quite macho in Italy. And so my construction of my male identity was kind of struggling to find, struggling to find some examples that I could find. So I was struggling to find a form of strength and that was not associated to violence, violence concept. So a subject, and it was not easy. I was so young. So a piece of music that has this would declare itself to be martial, to me was something that didn't belong to me. So I had really a strong resistance to play this piece of music. I really felt this internal collapse of desire, and I couldn't play. And of course, but I couldn't say that in words. I didn't know what was happening to me. And but of course, my teacher said, "Come on, Jeremia, play this damn piece." No, like
just do it.
Just do it. What's something? So again, forced to do something. What happened? But in order to allow myself to play it, I played it in a grotesque way. Oh. So I was playing it, but the note that were short, I would make it hyper short, and the notes that were hammered, I would do them so strongly. Even I would accentuate everything, to make it grotesque, But what happened is that little by little I started to like the piece.
You made it your own, kind of, and
not only. What happened is that I made it my own in the way that that was described as a martial tone didn't find to me any way as forceful or as arrogant. Instead, I found that was something free and open and energetic, but just what it is, nothing more, nothing less. And in that moment, I realized that was my idea of strength. That realization to say, I guess that this is possible and this is mine, was the result of this precious dialogue between a piece of music and how a piece of music allowed me to be different or invited me to be otherwise. And these days I'm reading a book by Laura Sim, that is a storyteller, and she says that storytelling is a way to rearrange our knowledge in a new way. Because when in a story we listen of a tree and of a journey, the tree we see are the tree we experience in our life, and the journey are the journey we did our own. So a story is always relying on our own experience to make sense of it. But the fact that this story brings us in a world that is not our own experience, allows us to experience something else as our own. And this is why it's enriching, because it opens new doors in our possibilities. And I think that's what is really precious of music, as of other arts too. That is this power of allow you possibilities of be otherwise, and discover that otherness is already you at the same time. It's a way to renew your identity. And the way music does it, as opposed to other arts, storytelling or or theater is that music is a physical event, is vibration. So when the sound physically touches your body, like the vibration touches you indirectly. And so what happens is that what I think it is that certain sounds that has a specific quality awaken certain feelings that we have stored in our body that has resonate to them. You know? And so that's why we have this possibility of getting in touch to some of our experiences and understanding them differently. That's for me why music is precious.
And I think that's what you're trying to bring with your workshop now. I read on your again a LinkedIn page that you are extremely passionate about teaching, and I really like that. So we can dive into that teaching, actually, your own approach and your body percussions workshops. Do you give different types of workshop, or right now it's mostly about body percussions?
There are 2 workshops that I give for adults. And the 2, I'm trying more and more to merge them in one.
Okay.
One is body percussion, and one is more game of vocal improvisation.
Okay.
You know? They move from two different places. Body percussion is what happens when we take the rhythm into the body. So what happens when rhythms that have been created to activate or to heal the body are performed with the entire body. What is the body response? And so let's say it's a movement from the outside to the inside. While the vocal improvisation activities are more from the inside to the outside. So it's like saying what happened when, how can we use movement to awaken ideas about how to create music, how can we guide our attention in a way that we discover that we are responding to sound. Like some people think that they cannot improvise, but the truth is that you cannot not improvise. Like is our body is always responding to sound. It's a matter if we can focus our attention to notice how it is happening. So these are the two approaches, and right now I'm mostly doing workshop in body percussion because of a limited energy in starting out at the same time. But little by little, I'm trying to integrate more and more of the improvisational side also on the.
So it's the complete interaction, like the outside from in the inside and the inside out, like
exactly. There's so movement.
There's kind of a flow, and you kind of learn to connect to yourself and your surroundings at this, like in a movement. Yeah. And could you describe, like if we were to do a workshop with you today, could you kind of give a feeling to people of how it's like?
Yeah. First thing, it would be nice to know.
Oh my god.
It's just something to have an idea of.
I'm terrified.
But it's the thing is of body percussion is that it looks always harder when it is. Yeah. And actually, every person that participated in the workshop, we always like, so I'm gonna do that, and say no, but it's not gonna be as difficult as it looks. And
I'm sure that's the mental barrier I have. You know, when we talk about the power of words, one thing I said about myself for many years is I don't have rhythm. And I'm not a for example, I'm not a musician. And I think many people, they kind of categorize themselves in certain ways. I'm not an athlete. I'm not a this or that. So I'm trying to deconstruct that category I gave to myself. And one of our first guests at the podcast were they are a couple from Colombia, and they are teaching kids music through movement.
I saw the podcast.
Okay.
What's the name of the company?
Musicality.
Yes, I really love their speech. Yeah, it was really inspiring.
It's super nice, and they made me realize that music can be part of a daily life, and they kind of explained that mostly like you describe your own journey. Like in the morning, my friend Juliana, she walks to school for her son But our younger daughter, who's too young to go to school, sometimes she doesn't want to go or she complains because she doesn't want to walk. But she started singing with her along the way. So she realized her daughter was much more relaxed and enjoying the walking and the journey instead of just whining. And I realized that I could myself sing and do while I was doing other things. And it was the first kind of breach and crack where music entered my life. Like just starting to make sounds by my own. And now with Vince, we always joke around and invent music and we improvise, which I never thought we would do. And my singing is terrible, but it's not important anymore, you know? Like how it sounds, it's just how it feels that is enjoyable. And yeah, so
it's fantastic. One of the Pauline Oliveros has this insistence of taking back the power of sound to people, you know? Mm-hmm. And while instead for many years we had music was of the musician, and it was almost this expropriation of everybody of what you can do with sound. You know? It's for your own benefit. So it's fantastic to hear.
So I would be interested in your workshop because I know you don't work with professionals. Actually, it's for beginners, right?
It's for beginners. So the first thing that happened at my workshop is that we laugh.
Yeah.
Like we one of the things is that. One of my my good teacher of a school called Evida, School of Life and Intuition in Spain, she told me this is a fundamental learning, but life energy is not serious. No, it's
that's beautiful.
It's one of the my guidelines. Like, so I just realized that whenever we are too serious, we have big trouble to learn. Like
that's
it's
so true.
So usually the first activity we do is really to laugh. Like it's made in order to mistake on purpose, that we can really laugh about it. And I always say it. So guys, like it doesn't happen if we mistake something. There's nobody dying on the street because of us. Can you imagine? Like you're mistaken somebody as an heart attack as you're doing. No, that's not gonna happen. No, so it's so there's always this idea of laughing about it. And the other thing is that we do a warm up always to just connect with the listening of the movement and discovering, because of the nice things of the body is that you perform an action at the same time you have the feeling of the action you perform. It's always this double circle, and so we are tuning a little bit into the body, and then the part that we learn are really interactive, and it's always like a game, like a play, because music in itself has the advantage of taking in its structure these really social components, like the call and response, the dynamic that you can partake, like phrases that you can partake with somebody else. And so it's really fun just to learn something, but doing it as a game, so that sometimes you do and you pass the rhythm to somebody else that picks it and does the same. No, so and there is so the same material that you can in this way you can how can I say, you can enjoy the repetition of the same materials in a way that is always something is happening socially. It's not just okay, we are repeating 100 times. So this and it's actually the pleasure also of the repetition. Like it's something I have to repeat myself as a teacher, but as a teacher, we want to do workshops that are really exciting and that everybody is always stimulated. Yeah. And one of the big things is instead to say, okay, how can we savor this activity until the end without rushing through it? You know, how can we settle down into this activity in a way that you can really fully enjoy it until the end? And I realize that often is a request of my participant too. It's like saying, oh, this is so nice, why we should just stop it halfway through because you decided it was 20 minutes and okay, we're just for workshop, but why don't we enjoy it more to end it? You know, so this is important thing to me, like to go to the speed of the participant. Because I participate sometimes to workshop with some teachers that you feel that they have to show that they were good, no? But so they make things a bit difficult because maybe because of there is still this idea that a good facilitator is somebody that is really, really good and really proficient, you know. And so what happened is that maybe half of the group is with you, the other half is struggling, and I say, why do we do that? And so these and then there's all there are part of learning of rhythms, and then there's a part of always a minute, like say, okay guys, you have 2 minutes to come up with something, like you learn to do this, how can you do the same rhythm with another part of your body, so everybody can try it out and come up with whatever they figure it out, and it's nice to partake in that way too. And then there's a part of the workshop, there are little activities that are a bit as a beginning and end, where maybe I focus on driving the person to listen in a specific way, like one activity I really like that I came up with. I'm sure that maybe there are many variations in other. It is called silent rhythms. It's where everybody's in circle and each person step in a little bit in the circle and does a movement with the body, but it's silent. Okay. So it's like. And I asked everybody before they start, like they say, okay, now you listen with your eyes. Listen, and at the end of the activity, say, do you hear something? Did you hear something with your eyes? And if people say yes, I say, okay, now we do the same circle, and the person opposite in the circle will sing what is hearing with the eyes. So that
what the movement evokes.
Exactly. There's a way to see that. If I focus on what I'm seeing, I hear something, and I just need to voice what I'm hearing. It's not that I'm creating something; it's already there, So these are all activities that are, of course, when these activities, the question is, okay, now that we have this intuition, how can we make it more musical? How can we expand it? So, but this, one of the things I really enjoy is to come out with these structures where you trigger people to create even if they don't want to.
Like we said, sometimes if we wait to be inspired to create, we will never create. There's a fear and a resistance that you kind of have to go through.
It's true. And but also when I want to, like saying, people think that they cannot, but then it's nice to come up with these activities are just help you just to make that. To realize what you're really doing. But once the process is started, then it goes. So how to trigger that first step. So
I feel like your job is to create an atmosphere that allows the students to feel comfortable and to be able to laugh at themselves and just not take it so seriously. And I do see yourself in the kind of the person making connections and not a teacher that is above and just spreading knowledge. Like it's an experience. I think it's learning through living it, and I think it seems to require a lot of kind of patience and humility and on your part, like just being there to see what is gonna emerge. Yeah, it's very interesting.
I like to think it's complex to facilitate the workshop and still learning. But what helped me is especially I can imagine the first workshop I gave. I was not really sure what I was doing, and still to now when you try new things, you really don't know exactly what you're doing. You have the intuition, and the intuition is clear, the intention is clear, but how it's gonna play out, you don't know. So, and what helped me is that often I realized that people that were coming to the workshop were taking themselves something to the workshop. Like, how can I say? I was not the only person. It's a bit magical, but when people gather together for a purpose, there's always something that is almost there before you. Like, I see that some intuition that were really important for the workshop were brought by the participants that were picking what I was offering and understanding in a way that maybe was beyond what I was expecting. So it's good. I really like this idea that indeed as a facilitator, the most thing is to open that space and invite. Set a certain invitation, because when they're invited, then they come and they actually take you what maybe you need. So there's this beautiful sentence of Rumi that the woman I love repeats me all the time. That is but is what you're looking for is looking for you. You know, so it's in often cases is this idea of imitation, and it's important.
And you're the like you say, like it seems like you're a teacher, but you're a student as well. And I used to teach at the university while doing my master thesis, which is why it took longer. But teaching was also a great excuse not to work on my thesis. So I don't know what, but I did realize that teaching, I learned more by teaching sometimes than being a student in a class. So it was very enriching. It was very rich. So going back to your students, since you traveled, you lived in Italy and in the up north, and here, do you see a difference from countries or regions about our relation to music, or do you just see that we're humans and we're kind of all the same in your workshop? Like, do you see a difference in kind of the mental barriers or perception people have about music?
Only a little. I don't. I didn't maybe focus so deeply about these details. One thing that I can say is that in the North was really funny how the North was a really good training to rethink my teaching.
Okay.
Because my students would say pretty much, this is music, right? And I would say yes. And what they meant by this question was like, so it must be funny. It must be fun. Like so every activity I had to offer to my students in the North had to be extremely funny.
Okay.
And extremely engaging. Otherwise, why we're doing it? It's music. Like it cannot be learning something as in school. No, and this was it was funny because still like I come teaching in school. We come from a perspective where the idea in school there's a teacher and there's students, and the teacher teaches and the students learn. Even when we want to be really open, this is kind of the background where we grow up. But in the North, it's not exactly the same. Like students will not be available to you unless you have a relationship with them. No.
Yeah, they didn't listen to you because you were a figure of authority. Like
exactly.
It's not enough to get them involved.
Exactly. Like we're not. If you start with that fit, we will not available to you. We will really not be available.
What a nice human and humbling experience, because it must be very stressful and terrifying at first to realize that you have to be in the moment and connect with people in order to get something from there. I think that in many school settings, I'm in Quebec, I don't know elsewhere, but we kind of sit and it's a passive experience. You sit there and you listen to a teacher and you hope he doesn't ask questions to the class so you don't have to answer and kind of look from your books. And then you make me realize that the students you encountered, they didn't want to be passive. They wanted to play and interact with you.
Yeah, it's I would say that they would if they would be totally passive if you don't connect to them. They would be not only passive but even aggressive. So not passive aggressive, really aggressive. And
so if I understand, they would say out loud that they were not kind of satisfied.
Yeah, exactly. You would understand clearly.
Yeah.
But they would. But at the same time, when if you create in the folder where, some students also suffer of a lot of insecurity. So there's a lot of bridge to do. So it's a really dedicated process to prepare those lessons. But little by little, it was nice to see that when finding the right activity, when finding something that the action of some positive leaders in the class, that they would commit and they would come back for the activities. So this was experience in the North between Italy and North America and Canada. I appreciate that in Canada there's a appreciation of one's own music, the music that people do on their own. Like in Italy, there's a lot of, right now, as a pop music, there's a lot of cover bands, no, that are kind of monopolizing much of the...
So playing the music of others.
Playing the music of others, exactly. And so when I came to Canada, I really appreciated the fact that people were stimulated to invest on their own things and not just repeating something else. And so musicianship was one thing, yes, but like authenticity of somebody's work is a value, and that I really appreciate. So these are the differences that comes to mind.
And so you're a teacher. Are you an artist who like composing your own stuff, or it's mostly the teaching that is your purpose?
That's a good question. I'm more of a teacher, yet I think that I try to have a daily practice of music making, music learning for myself, and I do have also a project that I still do with the flute and loop pedal of my own compositions. But right now I don't have the time to take around.
It's for you. It's for your own self.
Yeah, it's music therapy. Applied music therapy.
Yeah. Okay. So what does a day in your life look like? I was wondering, like, so you're teaching and you live music and movement in this setting with people, but when you're on your own at home, how do you live your approach actually?
It's it makes me laugh. So first things, let's talk about the intentions. The intention is to make my life more musical. Like so, if I want a society where people are more musical, the question is, okay, how do I make my life
as a starting point?
As a starting point, more musical. What are the way and what does it mean for me to make it every day more musical? So I'm trying to I establish study sessions, and in between each study session or work session or advertisement sessions or calling sessions, I try to put 10 to 20 minutes of something musical I do it to break. So also to protect myself to go on Facebook and spend kill time on Facebook, or to fall into these time traps. I have then let's say that my work, my task divided between teaching, lecture teaching. Usually in the morning there are the kindergartens. Sometimes I do. In the evenings there are the workshop for the adults, and sometimes in the weekend there are workshops I do for parents and children. Then there's the preparation of the activities that is always in dialogue with my own practice. And then I try to read every day some inspiring materials for me, or to listen at lunch. I try to listen to some podcasts or some videos, and then of course there's all the part of advertisement and portfolios,
like managing
exactly
your venture.
Exactly. I cannot if I have to be honest, there are also days where as an artist I laugh because it's a bit embarrassing, but sometimes you have to deal with the anxiety of not knowing what's going to happen. And whenever that you start a new big project, and where you it's been times when you start a workshop and you don't have still enough people that are going to enroll, and you're preparing new material, so you don't know how the material will be accepted, and you have a contact for the place that is going to rent you the studio, but they are not responding to your emails, so the degrees of uncertainty is so high that sometimes you just feel, okay, I miss too much, I cannot deal with it. So I think that a good part of a self-employed artist is also to give yourself good tools to deal with the insecurity of the case and of the anxiety that comes with it.
I understand now, and I do understand completely what you're feeling. Vince and I have many discussions on that topic. The fact that entrepreneurship, and I think I do see a link between entrepreneurship and artists, because you do create something, and some people, I think, like ourselves, we want to bring a new vision of the world. So it's a creation. It's like you gotta come out with things from your head that you read and get inspired, and there are many days where it's very hard because you don't know where you're going, and you kind of feel that you should know where you're going, but you don't, and you kind of have to give up control. And in the past days, it has been very intense, because I realized that I didn't want to keep going without having a perfect plan, but that doesn't work that way. And I have to accept that creation and entrepreneurship, doing it is accepting from the start that it's always dealing with the uncertainty. And we chose that path because we like this uncertainty, because it's a blank canvas and it gives us the freedom to act and create something out of nothing. But it's very scary as well, because you don't always know what's going to come out, and you can feel very insecure and terrified. So some parts of my days are to meditate, just to relax and to keep going.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think maybe that's why, I mean, we want to explore all types of movements with Renard. And I played many sports in my life, but recently we do invite a lot of artists and yoga teachers, because I think it's a personal journey that I have to go through to see the side of movement that is more about connection and gaining confidence in my own abilities through moving with my body. So yeah, you make me realize that your presence here do help me a lot on a personal basis.
Likewise, for me, it's really good to talk about these things, like we how many of the concepts I talk today, but of course when on a daily basis I'm not always so close to all these concepts. I need to go back to them in order to nurture and to redirect my intentions, and so it's really important to also narrating them with somebody else is a way to renew them, these ideas, and to let them evolve, not just go back to an origin, but also expanding it in daily life. So it's the benefit is mutual.
And I think that's what I like about embodiment is I used to be always in my head. Like I said, I used to see my body as a way to transport my brain. That was the only function. I hated cooking before, and for me food was just fuel, so I could keep going and work more on my homeworks or whatever. And I think I realized, and I kind of neglected the experience in the physical world. Like I thought it was inferior to intellectual activity, which was very snob toward my body. And I realized that when I'm stressed, actually a very good way for me to de-stress is to connect to the world through my body and my senses, and to bring my ideas to life by doing something and by moving. It brings a certain energy back, and it also helps you expand your mind, because you could stay and imagine a whole world in your mind that maybe is not real, and you have to act and take action and do something to, like you said, you have an echo. Like when you make a sound, when you make a move, some things come back to you, comes back to you as well. And it's kind of the learning experience.
I totally understand also, because I'm also a really brainy person, actually, and so it's really the interest for me is a way to balance. One of is interesting how big interesting, but I think that the fears is really connected to thought, to this way of thinking, to rational thought. And I find the same, the ability of feeling the presence of the body, the presence of being alive and being here, to have instead a totally different effect on my experience. Like saying, yeah, okay, what fears is something that can be silenced, can be the word, the tone. Another thing is that the woman I love, my partner says, is by quoting Elizabeth Gilbert, is that fear will always be you, but you should ask fears to sit on the back seat of the car. Especially never give never let fear drive your car, or even change the music, you know. Like fear is there and you get to scream at every corner because we're gonna die. But at the same time, you can say, yeah, you know, fear, you're there, you do what you're good at, but you get to come, but you don't get to drive, no. And
that's it. Yeah, that's before fear was all over, and I kind of tried to humanize it and create a character out of it to make it like more tangible and physical. So I used to kind of draw a character with 2 eyes and a smiley face, and I would draw myself interacting with my fear and my anxiety like in a visual way, and it kind of helped me disconnect it from my body and just like you said, like Elizabeth Gilbert said, you're there, I acknowledge you, but you're just something, like you're an external part, you're not all that I am, and you don't decide. It's a work in progress. It's especially when you're curious and you want to evolve all the time, you're always out of your comfort zone in some way, and you always face fear. Like if you're evolving, you're always experience fear in some form.
It's good to also to make it sustainable with time, but the amount of stress can be controlled over the course of time, and then there are moments also when it's part of life. You just go through it, and then at time you have to stop and control.
Yeah, it's a cycle.
Yeah, exactly.
When we start a project, the enthusiasm is very high, and we see the future and we want to create that stuff. And then when we have to do the work, it's like the messy middle part where you don't know always, like you're so into it that you don't see the whole vision, and then I crash because I'm overwhelmed. And then you kind of go back up and you kind of complete, and it's kind of you cannot avoid that circle.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like the form of a story, right? Like everything starts quite fine, then something happened really bad, and then but the hero finds a way out of it, and that's such a archetype of
exactly. And it's fun to imagine our life. I was discussing this with Vince the other time. I said we are used to in society to see stories and to hear stories of other people, and we kind of see this arc very clearly, and we know that most of the time the film is going to end in a good way. But living your own story, and when you're in that part where you're desperate and you don't know where you're going, like even though we know it's going to end eventually and it can end good, when we're in it, like living it is not exactly the same as seeing a full arc and a completed story. When it's our own story, it's a learning to be in it and kind of navigate through that and build the skills that are anyway. We could discuss this for many hours, I think. I don't know what time it is. I think our time's up. I kind of completely lost the sense of time. So going back to some practical ideas that people could... You talked about your own day in your life, how you kind of take musical breaks to reconnect to your own self. For a beginner, let's take me as a case. I'm not a musical person very much, but what could I do, for example, today or tomorrow, just to kind of bring more music in my life without having like you on call teaching me, like just
right. Well, I guess that the idea that we're suggested you by musicality is sounds wonderful, like the fact that some little motifs we can sing. Sometimes it's for me the first thing is opening to listening, you know. So if I take a moment to sit down and to listen to all the sound we can hear around, and try to see how far our hearing perception can go, and also hearing the sounds and the noise as a melody, what is the melody that I recommend that make us remember. It's a good practice, and sometimes just imitating certain sounds. Like I remember once walking on the street on Laurier, and there was this air conditioner that was making there was something banging, and the rhythm was so catchy of that air conditioner. It was my listening started to play music on it. So listening will be the first suggestions, and to imitate, like to see how something is suggested, and then how to integrate, how to start, like that's it's such a good question. Like why? Because sometimes it feels that it feels so much that music is a leisure, that is not we're not really fully entitled in a business life, in a working life. It's like because life is serious, when it's not. So how do we myself, I realize that sometimes I have these difficulties in fully accepting that I can do music in life, and it is value for its own purpose. I don't have necessarily to do it because I'm teaching somebody or because I have a concert, but I can do it for its own purpose. It's something that is still ingrained in our culture.
That you have to fight.
But I have myself. I have to set the intention, saying, it's good if I do music on my own purpose. And it's so that's a bit of a barrier. And I guess that what I would recommend is when if you have the chance to see musical instruments around, just to touch it and hear the sound of it, like just to appreciate the quality of that sound, the instrument, the sound can produce. There's a friend of mine that told me, for years and years I had this idea that I couldn't play the guitar. My friend Pablo, and he said, I had this image that I couldn't. It's a total mental image, and I just pick it up and I say, why not? And now I'm playing, and he said it's beautiful. I do beautiful music, When he said that, he recognized something that it was beautiful. It made me really happy to hear.
So he thought he was not able to play, but he never touched a guitar before, is it?
Exactly, because he said, I had this idea that I cannot do two things at the same time with my two hands,
That's a perception I have on my own side. I said I could never learn the piano or whatever, but somehow violence is, I wanted to play violin anyway. So he never touched it because he thought he couldn't.
He had this image, this picture that say, I don't do that, But then he said, why not? And he actually said, I can do it, It's... And of course, it's not perfect at the beginning, but he said, I do beautiful sounds.
He was even proud of himself.
It was this happiness that was stemming from his tale.
It makes me think, like you said, like I had a vision of music that is, you take courses to learn an instrument and to master the instrument, right? That's the vision I had. And one thing that filled me with joy last summer, we walk a lot, and I grabbed a stick, like from a branch from a tree, and we were just walking, and I started to tap so many things I saw my way with the stick to see this, like to hear the sound it would make, like clutter the fences, and I would give myself challenges to tap a sign over there that is very high, but just to hear the sound of stuff, and it was super enjoyable, and it was so simple, and just the action to discover what things sound like when you tap them. And I think it's fun for humans just to touch and tap stuff anyway, like to hit stuff, and so it was very fun. So it's good that you start the practice of music in the daily life by listening. It makes me think of Ed Catmull. He wrote the book Creativity Inc. So he worked Ed Catmull.
I don't know.
He worked at Pixar. He was one of the founder members of Pixar, and he said people think that art is to like create something, but learning art is learning to see. So it's fun that learning music is also learning to listen. And in our daily life, our brain for us blocks when we have too many inputs, like it kind of blocks stuff. So we don't have to be overwhelmed. So some sounds in the city, we don't even notice them anymore, but they are there. And you kind of encourage me to break those doors that I built to actually listen to everything and just observe how, but it makes me feel.
There's a lot of writing about how each of the senses connects us in a different way to our environment. And one of the peculiarity of listening is this grounding effect, because listening as this, you can listen to all your surroundings, even in distance, at the same time, and that give you a really global, connection to what is around you. And when we have this sense of encompassing presence for sound, it has a really calming effect.
That's wonderful. And well, last question, because you said you're a very brainy person, and I heard many books and authors that you like, and I'd like to learn also from those masters and experts or people that you love. So are there some books or websites that you recommend for people that would like to keep the learning, like they learn about your approach today, but if they're very curious and they want to keep going?
There is quite some good material out there. So for body percussions, there are few world masters that produce DVDs,
or online. Is it online workshops or like physical DVDs?
Physical DVDs. Yeah, physical DVDs.
I don't think I have a DVD reader.
Oh, right. Yeah, you can download. You can download. We used to be DVDs. Now they're just files, but you can download. And you're thinking of more free access material or things like that?
Starting with free, something
free.
that
okay. First, all the things, many things I learned were on YouTube. Today there's so much incredible materials on YouTube, and so by googling body percussion in all the languages, that's the trick. Like you put body percussion corporelle, I don't remember how it's in Portuguese, but there's a lot of things happening in body percussion in Brazil right now and in Colombia. So put the same word in all the languages of the world, and you're gonna have endless material of body percussion. There is, of course, there are both Meredith Monk, Paulina Oliveros has an extensive bibliography that you can find in the library about my work and compositions. Also, Rhiannon, the improviser, has her own pedagogical material. She has a book called Vocal River. Vocal River.
Okay.
It is a book with many exercises that she recommends.
Okay.
It's really beautifully done. Then there is the name of people I know that put out interesting things are Barbatuques, is a group from Brazil.
Okay.
Especially one of my mentors, Charles Russell, that has really some good materials. Max Pollack, Kit Terry, that are both masters, have many materials out there. Tupac Mattia.
That's very good.
Yeah.
That we're gonna put the references. Maybe I'm gonna poke you and ask how do you spell all those things.
Yes, I will send it to you.
Because your references are all from all over the world, which is absolutely wonderful.
And my mentor is a really amazing body percussionist, Sandy Silva. She has a really beautiful approach, but you fuse a body percussion to a really expressive dance. So just another one.
But I'm sure I'm gonna look at the stuff and we're gonna ask for more eventually. But if people want to follow you on social media, maybe be in touch with you and learn where and when your workshops are taking place, where do they go?
I'm still working on my website.
Okay.
For now, the easiest way is to go on my Facebook page, Jeremia Lorenzo. And that's where I publish all the workshop I give. There's actually a free workshop in a backyard festival in Verdun. At the end, it's been postponed to the end of July. It's a free
because
workshop.
It was raining again. It's raining. Fun to be outside, but you're at the mercy of the weather.
Exactly. So hopefully, if the weather will be good, we'll be at the end of July. I think the 25th of July.
If we can, we'll be there.
Fantastic.
I wanted to close on that we're gonna, because we didn't move with you today. I'm sure you kind of feel that you need to move now, but we'll go in one of your workshop and we will share the experience.
Fantastic.
The way I lived it.
It would be fun to one or two of you.
Yeah. So thank you for coming. It was very enjoyable, and for sure I'll follow you and Evolution. I'd be happy to see.
Thank you. Thanks to you, Claude. And thanks Vincent.
Vince behind the camera.
Exactly. Thanks for having me.
Have a good day.